Hello everyone, welcome back in a place in the sun, my little place in the internet when I am sharing things that bring me joy. We are back with 52 weeks of tarot, my practice of 2026, when every week I'm exploring a different tarot from my collection. I want to get to know it better, maybe some ways I work with it are changing, maybe it's a new deck that I would like to explore. And now we're back in the month of May, where I'm gonna go into what I work with this month. As usual, I was using my monthly spread to pick up one card a day from the deck and explore it with a guidebook to see what the creator of the deck had in mind, what is their interpretation of the card, what was the concept behind the deck. And also I was doing my weekly spread, and then I was exploring further with my daily readings, smaller readings. And also this month, weirdly enough, a lot of decks that I've been using have their own system. So it was kind of interesting to see how differently the creators are looking at the tarot system, because they're not so much beside one typical Rider-Waite-Smith clones in a way. So let's move to the decks that we've been using. Yeah. So the first deck is Wisdom of the Depth Tarot. It is the marine theme collaged deck, I would say. This is a deck that not only I was using in my weekly practice, but also I took it for my journey to Malta. Something that I'm doing this year is starting my personal spiritual pilgrimage, and part of it is getting to the highest points of every country in Europe. This time I was in Malta. This is not a very high peak, but still it is a process of coming back to nature, coming back to myself, and also working with a tarot as a guide on this journey. So each time I'm taking a different deck. Usually I'm trying to match it to the energy of the trip that I'm going with. So Malta, a little island, I really felt called to working with something with a sea ocean theme. So I took the deck, and it was absolutely amazing choice. I really loved working with it on my little journey. So I also had a chance to work with it much more this month. I really enjoy it as it has a bit of a sense of humor. It also looks at things in a little bit quirky way. It is Rider-Waite-Smith clone in a way, but it has its own little quirks, little things to follow. Also, this time I used a bigger guidebook that is coming with that deck. Normally you can have access to it as a PDF. QR code is coming in the box, but I really struggle with using guidebooks when they're just on my phone. So I printed my version and bind it, and I could take it as a little booklet. And I really enjoy it because we were going a little bit more into stories of the cards, especially in major arcanas. There's like a little story that allows us to go in more into what's happening in the art. And I find it's not long entries, but they're bringing a little bit of its own flair and a little bit story of the deck into a reading, which was beautifully working as a storyline at the seaside, but also playing with it during a week. When it comes to pairing it, I was using just one pair with it, and maybe we can spread it. And it is Seashell Oracle from Broccoli magazine. So this is Oracle that is my favorite one out of all the Broccoli oracles. I really enjoy working with it. I really love its palette. They work together beautifully when it comes to aesthetics, but also because of the theme of the sea and different elements around it. They beautifully work together. Especially that Wisdom of the Deep is not so much all the time in the ocean. There's a lot of coastal elements, and with the seashells we are also at a coast where the seashells usually are. So it really beautifully connects. It allows you to really beautifully explore. There's 3 keywords, so you can play even adding the third card on the bottom and play with each keyword to the different tarot cards. they also speak beautifully colorful when it comes to colors, so I love pulling different colors that are being used in the card on those decks. So that would be the first week when I was playing quite a lot with my sea themed decks, and then I moved into first unusual deck with its own system. So this is Wisdom of Witches Tarot. This is a deck that made a lot of changes when it comes to the deck. Not only major arcana are reversed, so we are not going from the Fool to the World, but we are going from the World to Fool, or technically Fool is overlooking everything as a pilgrim, and then we are moving in other direction. The numbers are also changed, so we are not having the classical numbers of the major arcana, which make it a little bit challenging to figure out what's going on. We have changes in the suits, so we have air, earth, water, and what did I miss? Fire, sorry. So we are moving into elemental section. We're learning from the elements, and at the same time the deck is also working more with numerology, but also not really in the numerology as I normally work with it. So I had some moments that were really challenging, but I really love the deck, and I really love the guidebook that comes with it, with a lot of sections that are really organized well, with wisdom, with how to work with certain energy in a more practical way. So something that I came to conclusion after working with it for a week is that I don't think I'm going to be using it as a tarot deck. I think it's a little bit too far of how I look at the tarot to really use it in this way, because I would have to learn by heart almost how the authors wanted this to work, which is not the way I prefer to do things. So I'm thinking of changing it more into Oracle, because I see it as a really good tool when it comes to my process of pilgrimage, of when I'm coming back and want to integrate the wisdom of my different journeys and the different parts, especially that they're going to be very stretched in time. This is a beautiful deck to working with this pilgrimage energy, and coming more into the wisdom of especially nature, since my personal pilgrimage is connected to my spirituality and nature. Having a deck that is so in tune with themes of protecting the nature, of the wisdom of the nature, our place as a part of the whole ecosystem, is really good for this practice, but I just don't see it so much as a tarot at this point. So I'm thinking of doing some modifications, maybe adding some keywords. I'm still not sure how to go about it, but I'm gonna think about it, because for sure I would like to use the deck. I can see it a lot as something that is a very beneficial tool in my personal practice. I just need to do certain kind of adjustments to make it work better for me. But for sure, the guidebook was very helpful, and the fact that this is a journey of a pilgrim going through the world very fits into the topic that is very present in my life right now. So when it comes to the pairings, one of the things in the theme of the journey and exploring the pilgrimage is the two decks that I've been using together. Should we try doing it like this? I think it's gonna be more chaotic. Let's do it like that. So this is Pathfinder Oracle, and this is Scribalist's Quest. So both of them talk a little bit of like finding your journey and finding your way. So it beautifully speaks to that theme that I want to explore. The colors work also very beautifully in those decks. I think they're picking up on each other quite nicely, and also in this whole system of the decks, we have something that is very easy to read, which is the keywords. We have a little bit of explanation that we can go with, so it's easy anchor to go deeper into two decks that can be a little bit trickier to read, since here we have more like object theme, and then we have an like tarot, but with its own system, so it's make it sometimes complicated to straight away go into the reading. So then having something to anchor us where we are exploring, and then going with those two into finding a path in this pilgrimage, with some guidance, it worked really beautifully, and I really enjoyed this practice. This is for sure gonna be something that I'm gonna be working more in my personal process. So I was really happy to also find this combination. And another deck that I've been using with it is Outgrow Yourself Oracle, and this I work a little bit more in the reverse way. When we have one oracle, this is I use as an oracle, so I've been using the sentences that you can find on the deck, and then exploring further with this theme. And this is much more in the topic of growth, in the topic of self-exploration, and more going into the depth of the process and less of the physical, like moving through it, but now we are sitting in it and we're pondering and we are going into a dark cave and there explore. This is how it was coming to me. I really enjoyed working with those two decks. They have a lot of potential. It's something that you need a little bit more time to work with, since this is something where I go deeper into the guidebooks. So this is not something that is like a quick read. We run out of cards here. It's not like a quick read, but it was really interesting practice, and it's something that for sure I will be coming back in the moments when I can feel that I can take some time, take a moment, maybe even sit with those cards for like multiple days and go deeper and deeper into new layers of it. The next deck, since I was already in the realm of elemental practices, is Elemental Tarot. So this is a tarot that I have for quite a while in my collection, but it's a deck that I very rarely feel called towards using. It's also not an easy deck in the sense it has a lot of elements, and you really feel like you should use all those elements, but the thing is that they're not exactly something that is so in tune with my practice. We have elements of astrology. I have very limited knowledge of astrology. It's not something that I very commonly use in my readings. We have little symbols from like Egyptian hieroglyphs style. We have a little, in the guidebook there is a guide to how to read those signs. There is addition, there is a title for the card within its suit, which in Earth, here we have a seed as the one of Earth. So this, we have this title, and then we also have like a god or archetype associated with that card to go deeper into its meaning, and those are pulling from all kind of mythologies that are out there. So that's another thing, is something that I stopped really working with. It's like multiple mythologies around the world. I try to concentrate on the ones that are local to me, since I can connect with them much better, and I feel like I can get to know them and respectfully work with them. So this is one of the problems that I have with this deck. There's so many elements that I feel like I should be pulling into, and I don't do it, so then I don't reach for it. But the moment I feel called to use it, it gives me the most uncanny, on point readings and giving me information that I really need to hear. So that's one of the problems that I have with this deck, that I want my collection to be a working tool collection that I am using on quite regular basis, that things have their certain purposes, or maybe they're coming with certain unique energy to the table. So having a deck that I'm using very rarely, because it might be like once a year that I manage to pull it, if not less, feels a bit weird. But at the same time, I feel like I need to approach this deck in a bit different way. So I know that those gods don't really work for me so well, and when I tried to explore a little bit more what those gods are compared to the card that I was pulling, I also felt it like really not jiving so well for me. So I'm feeling that I just need to ignore those additional parts. I'm considering doing some modification on this deck, to get rid of the information that is not really what I need from it, because what I really enjoy about it is the simplicity of the art makes the symbols really pop. We have the symbols are really out there, easy to pull, so it's perfect deck to read in this Jungian approach. And in the guidebook there are also references to it. So this is really like the, if I want to play with the symbolism, with different elements talking together, with the Jungian approach to psychology depth, to exploring unconscious, this deck is great for that, because how clear all the symbols are. There are strong popping colors, so you can also work with that. There's a lot of elements to talk with each other, so this is great for that. But I have also other decks that I use in my Jungian way, but at the same time there is something that pulls me towards this art. It's just not in very regular way. It's not very often used. But I think one thing that was stopping me is this whole build-up system around the deck that maybe is not what I need, because it's not really aligned with how I look at the tarot. So that's for sure something that I still have to think about. I'm thinking of taking some pictures of the card, printing them out, and trimming those cards in some different ways and seeing how I feel about it in this mock-up print version, and see if this is something that I want to do. Because the thing is, like, on the bottom of the minor arcana we have those associations with different gods, deities, but on the majors we have the sentences that are coming up from certain, I think, poem, if I remember correctly, and those are a bit more towards actual message. So I'm not, because if I would like to cut out the gods on my card, I will also cut out this sentence for the major arcanas, so I have to think about what makes the most sense for me in how to use the deck. I also don't want to heavily modify a deck of which I am not exactly sure, because if I want to pass it to someone, I would like them to be able to explore the deck as it is. So if I heavily modify it right now, it's gonna change it very heavily. So if I come to conclusion that I don't want to work with it, then it's gonna be trickier to pass it on. So that's one thing. So this is a deck that gives me a little bit of headache, let's say, in a way of like how to best use it in my practice. Something that I paired it with is archetype cards. So I have very little cards because there's a lot of nudity in those, so it is not so easy to show them. So those cards are coming with the main archetype, and then we have light attributes, shadow attributes, so it is really popping into this Jungian way of working with the deck. So this is something that I really enjoy working. I think the art is also talking with each other. This is like this a bit more like old schoolish, a bit simpler art. So I think they're nicely talking with each other, but at the same time we are in the same theme of a certain archetype and then exploring it through the symbols on the elemental tarot. So this is one of the pairs, and the other one that is playing also into this more simple symbolic way is Lucky Potion Oracle. So this is something where we have a word which is already make it easier to get into the cards, because we have some anchor for it, but we have also a simpler art that allows us to work with like few symbols, not a lot of it, and we can really pull into it and play with it. We can play with colors because it's mostly gray scale illustration with a little bit pop of color coming from a different suits of that oracle, since there is I think 4 or 5 different suits that come into this oracle. So we can really play with it nicely, and it comes with this element of play and chance. Since we have also dice, we can look at this oracle from a different levels. I really enjoy playing with it because it allows you to almost like solve a riddle we have those different elements and we are putting them together, different shapes, colors, different messages, and we pulling it and play with it and merge it into this exploration of something and unconscious. And I think in the play, as a play way, is a really good way to explore our depths. So this is something that I really enjoy doing. So that would be the third week with the Elemental Tarot. And the last week of May, it's another deck with its own system in a way, and this is Herbcrafter's Tarot. So it is a deck with absolutely impressive systems set in place when it comes to the renaming of the chords, when it comes to matching the plants with certain themes, when we're looking into how it fits into theme of a suit and how it fits into the theme of the numerology. So again, we are playing quite a bit into the numerology card. We are exploring different journeys within connecting with Earth. I really recommend reading this front part of the guidebook if someone didn't have a chance of how much the authors put effort into thinking of creating an actual whole system around connecting to Earth, to plants, to their wisdom, to even the plants are matching enormous amount of themes. So even choosing those plants took a lot of effort and a lot of thinking and a lot of consideration, and we are placed into the wisdom of the plants. And also it is not having human figures, but they're human elements. So we see in chords hands of the worker, so we can connect to the human element in the plants, but mostly we are concentrating on the plants and connecting with them, connecting to their wisdom and how we can give to the plant and what plant gives to us. So it is absolutely in line with my spiritual practice. I love this deck. I use it really often. It used to be for years a deck that I've been using for my yearly practice, when I would pull on the end of the year Wheel of the Year spread, and for each month and for the whole year I would have a plant, and that month I would be working with that plant, and throughout the year I was working with one plant, so I was getting to know those plants much better, and then I would be exploring a different folklore behind them, the knowledge about the plant itself, in some way working with a plant if it's possible, sometimes growing those plants myself, sometimes working with a different forms of it, like tinctures, tea, etc. There are propositions of how to craft with those plants and how to do some activities that are on hand. I really enjoy the guidebook as it has this form, very working for me format. As first we have like 3 points of like core message of the card. So if you don't feel like reading a lot and you just want a punchy thing to take out of it, you can take those 3 points. Then we are going into art, what's happening into the art, which I really appreciate, and then we are going into a message of the plant itself. And the last part is different ways to work with a plant in more creative ways. So this is something that allows you to really connect to the whole theme of that deck. It is also a deck that always feels for me like this grandma. Like we are in the summer, parents have to work, and they're leaving us behind with a granny in her little garden, or maybe some different place where or maybe going with her to a forest and collecting plants together. She's teaching us about those, passing her knowledge from generation to generation. Sorry, I had a bit of a coughing fit. Coming back to the deck. So I could say it feels like this grandma that gives us a hug, gives us her wisdom, makes for us this blueberry pie, or cooks dinner for us, and we're helping her take care of plants. It has really this hugging, soft energy of grandma, the wise one, but also a healer, and someone who comes and puts a balm over the wounds on our soul, heart, and body. So the deck that I pair it with that to me also has this amazing soft energy. It's the Dreaming Waves, Dreaming Waves Oracle, and everything about this deck is soft. The color palette, the texture of the cardstock itself, those how those pictures are put together. There is something really balanced and soft. So they were really working beautifully. It's something in this week that I really had a call to work with energy of earth and water. I noticed that lately I have a huge pull towards everything blue and green, and even when I look at my edits of the decks for the week when I'm pulling what I would like to work with, I can see that almost every other week those decks and the bags that are in, there's everything like blue and green. I even when I'm reading books, I notice that most of them have their covers are also blue or green or have a lot of this color within it. So something about this water earth combination is something that I really need right now. Something that feels very calming and holding, and something that is really present in my practice. So that was something that worked with it beautifully. And in this way, another water element that I was adding into this combination was again Seashell Oracle. I really felt a lot of pull towards working with it. It's a deck that I really like working in the winter, and I also like it like May, June. In summer, I use it weirdly enough a bit less, but it is something about those colors that they just feel very good. That energy of water is pulling me in, and then again I was working a lot with using the 3 keywords and then pulling 3 cards under, and how those keywords were speaking to the card was really beautiful. They work with each other very well. I did play with much more pairs with this deck. I had a bit more energy to actually explore, but those two are my favorite ones that came out of this week. So I'll maybe move a little bit of cards here. So this is something that really worked well in my practice. This combination, like I said, of water and earth, and even the colors are nicely popping. They're maybe not so straightforward, but I think that they work very well and help you to connect a bit more to the message. So that would be the cards for this month. So like I said, this month was full of the decks that had unusual systems. There was a lot of playing with numerology, with their own interpretation of suits, or how to go deeper into those decks. Those are for sure decks that are really study decks that you can sit, work with them for quite a while, and really take out a lot out of them. This is something that is not like fast, and we have all the information. So for sure, this is decks that I would like to play a bit more with, and I had a lot of joy out of all my May decks. It really made me revive a little bit in my deck tarot practice. Also, it make me look into my practice, how can I refresh it so it is something more in tune with what I want to do this year, because I can feel myself slipping into this way where I am very stagnant and putting a lot of expectations how I want to do things, and it's not how I wanted to approach this year. So I want to strip things away, and I was doing a lot of cleaning this month, of removing certain things from my working space to go back to basics and find what brings me joy, and really playing into that, not being like, oh, this is how I need to do it and this is how I need to continue with it, but play a little bit more. How can I bring joy, play, fun, creativity into my daily life, and how can I rebuild it into what I want? Because I could feel myself slipping into my old ways, even though the previous months I was really working with the theme of my year. This month it was a little bit more meh, but my practice with cards, I was really enjoying it, and the cards were also pulling towards what I want in my life. So it was this little reminder, like, yes, this month is not working exactly how we want to, but we can pull out of it and we can go and explore something else, and we can go back to what we wanted to do and not get stuck in certain ways of thinking and doing things and putting at ourselves expectations that this has to be done, that has to be done. There is no really timeline for things. There is no deadlines, so I don't have to put so much pressure on myself, especially when I'm not feeling the best. So that would be my month of May. I really enjoyed this month, and I hope you enjoy this little overview of the decks, and thank you for being here, and see you soon.